without further ado, let's get this yarn ball rolling. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the SleepyCatFilms Official Podcast. My name is Logan Murray.
And my name is Wimberly.
And today we are visited by a very special guest. You may know him as the Batman, or come to know him as the writer of a few different projects that we have in the works here at SleepyCat Films. Welcome back to the show, Tayler Emerson.
Hello, thank you for having me.
We're just excited to have you. Thank you for being here.
Well, I guess without further ado, let's get this yarn ball rolling.
So, TJ, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Alrighty, can do. I'm Tayler Emerson. As you heard, I am a cast member here at SleepyCat Films, primarily for the Batman, and I'm also a writer/editor. I'm based out of the Midwest area of the United States. I'm currently 22 years old and self-employed.
What do you do in that self-employment?
I am a YouTuber, one of the few out of the, sum total who actually managed to make money off of the advertising revenue.
Yeah, that's really impressive. I know the algorithm can be a beast.
It most certainly can. Yeah, it certainly can be a pain. And so, it's modest for a living wage, but I wouldn't do anything else. It's a lot better than having a 9-to-5 in my opinion, because I've tried it both ways, and this way I make a lot less money, but I'm a lot happier.
I think the quality of life that you put into yourself is really important. I'm right there with you.
Mm-hmm.
I know, I'm not sure if you're experiencing this, but me and Logan are down in Georgia, and we've got this pretty big snowstorm hitting us. Big for Georgia.
Sure.
So that's kind of where we're at. Bit of a lazier day.
Yeah, where I'm at in the country is particularly cold. I know we got down to lows as low as negative 27 degrees Fahrenheit over this the snowstorm a couple weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
Thankfully, the infrastructure here is well prepared for stuff like that, so we haven't had some of the issues that a lot of the more southern states have had with power and service outages.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, around here we're fine, but it still really sucks.
Yeah, I definitely hear it. I know it's as of recording, it's the end of January, and last weekend we had frozen rain down here in Georgia. So we kind of my power was flickering, and I never really experienced that in this place before. So it's just all very interesting.
Yeah, that's got to be pretty disconcerting.
Just a little.
And not to mention the driving. Ugh.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh man, I drive a stick shift, so it's a little easier on me, but my tires are worn out, so I need to replace them. So there's a risk. There's just a risk all around.
Yes.
So just to jump into it, first and foremost, how did you meet Logan?
So I met Logan, I believe, through the audition process, through the Filmbind Discord server. This was around a time when I was really looking for any project that I could get involved in, because I was, and to a large part still am, always looking for more to do in the realm of voice acting. I really do love acting for acting's sake, trying to increase my skills. And I didn't, a lot of projects don't really go anywhere, even if you get accepted. So one thing I've been very pleased about is the fact that, one, I was, on the table for, I was offered, or I was auditioning, I should say, for very prestigious roles, I would say.
Yeah.
And also that this project has definitely gone so far just since I've been here.
Yeah.
You know, to get the role of Batman, and this place clearly has the ball rolling in like on so many aspects. There are servers I've been in, I feel like, longer than the Sleepycat Films production server, where far, far, far less has happened.
Things just stagnate, but it doesn't seem like that's the case here.
Yeah. So it was a pretty standard sort of audition process just over Discord. You know, I remember reading from multiple people. I think I tried Clark Kent and Lex Luthor, but ultimately Logan liked me for my Batman, and sometime later got me in a chemistry test with Cat Jones, who is our Joker. And I think at that moment it just clicked really well, because Cat is phenomenal. But I say was because I remember being so blown away in that moment, where it's like, wow, you really found someone whose Joker is this good.
Wow.
It was a really interesting experience, I'd say, because I think when it came, we had a few people who auditioned for the Joker and a few people who auditioned for Batman. And I heard your audition and I heard Cat's, and there was something that spoke to me that made me go, before I made a final decision, I need to see these two together. And I had them do a monologue from the final monologue from Batman the Killing Joke. And it's honestly, I think, one of the best scenes between the two of them that really encapsulates their relationship and their dynamic of they don't hate each other. Batman does not want to kill the Joker. The Joker doesn't want to kill Batman. But there is a point where something is going to happen, and one of them is going to break. And that whole scene, I think TJ and Kat, one of the things that I really appreciated from that chemistry test was the fact that both of them together just really understood the dynamics of the characters, and that, you know, we're entering our DC universe 10 years in, where these characters have interacted for a literal decade and have, I mean, where our Batman is, he's lost Jason Todd, he's raised Dick Grayson, and in a way lost him. So now we're entering at Bruce at his lowest to be risen again. But yeah, I think that TJ and Kat just understood the assignment when it came to these characters and how they relate to each other, and in a way that their dynamic is one that is kind of romantic. Not in an inherently romantic way, but like in just a closeness and an understanding. Like in a closeness and an understanding of each other that he doesn't have with anybody else. TJ, if you'd like to add on to that.
I suppose it is a borderline like life partnership kind of thing. As much as Batman deeply resents it, he's so like inextricably linked to the Joker and his identity and his presence in Gotham.
I mean, we've seen that in some other films, such as, like, you know, a little made for kids, but still the Lego Batman movie. You can really see their dynamic there of having the dependence of one another.
Yeah, I think the Lego Batman movie plays into it, but also like really plays it up. Like while the Joker is present, when the Joker is present in Batman stories, it is very interesting to have that sort of link there. But I mean, obviously, Batman can function without Joker being part of the story. But so long as Joker is, I think it's very important to have that dynamic come through properly and have people that understand and can emulate that, like those roles and that feeling. And I think Cat, by virtue of doing such a good job, really helps me, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah, you lift each other up. I know, if I'm remembering correctly, one of the latest Batman movies was Robert Pattinson's. Is that correct? And we don't see the
Yeah.
Joker in that.
Yeah, how do you feel about Pattinson's Batman?
Personally, I think it is one of the best, probably the best live action Batman that's ever been done.
Yeah.
I think the film itself is very well done, and it gives Batman the correct amount of, like, threatening aura and mystery and edge without being, the Dark Knight series, the Dark Knight trilogy kind of makes Bruce Wayne feel like not too much of a character at times, and makes the with the Batman voice being edgy. Sometimes it's hard to take seriously, despite how hard Nolan wanted those movies to be more like serious crime thrillers.
Right.
Meanwhile, I think the movie with Robert Pattinson perfectly nails the atmosphere of the Batman, and it plays into, especially in his early years, the darkness within the character. He's still like really racked with flaws and self-doubt, and more than anything, this need for vengeance that is becoming extremely unhealthy and would lead to a destructive path in which Batman probably couldn't sustain for as long as he ends up eventually doing. I don't think you can sustain off of that sort of vengeance in a healthy way. So I think it was a really good early arc for the character.
Absolutely. And touching on that a little bit, because I would have to agree that I think the Batman is better than the Dark Knight trilogy, at least so far. The second one could change that, but
I'm definitely excited for that second movie.
Me too. But something that I heard on a podcast, the Skate Pod podcast, with this guy Nikhil Clayton, who is a really famous comic influencer. He talked about also liking the Batman a little bit more than the Dark Knight. And his explanation was he just really liked the stylization of it. And I had never thought about it. But I do love how stylized the Batman is over the Dark Knight, which I feel like, I mean, everybody says it, Gotham in the Dark Knight is just Chicago.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right.
So, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say the Batman does feel more. It does honestly feel more like a comic. We open with that narration from Robert Pattinson's Bruce Wayne, which is, just like a edgy Batman monologue, like in the best way possible, I should say. Because, that is the character. He is a bit self-aggrandizing, and he's, verbose and he's a well-learned guy. And so it's interesting for a movie not to be afraid to let us see into the thoughts of someone like that. And, the first time you see him take off the cowl, you feel the weight. And not to mention the fact that the movie was brave enough to actually have, like, the dark makeup around the eyes.
Yeah.
Something every live action Batman with a similar mask has had, but they've been too afraid to show because, I don't know, they thought it looked dorky. And then when someone finally does do it, it's like one of the best shots in the whole movie.
Yeah, it's a highlight.
No, absolutely. So, and touching on that monologue thing too, I don't think people who don't read comics don't realize how big of a part of Batman's character that is. until they do. Like, we have done a comic read, me, Kat, and TJ, of Batman Death in the Family. And wow, Batman yaps so much in that book.
Yeah, and the narration. Especially, it seems like in the older comics, they're not afraid to have Batman have as much dialogue as it's basically like the narration in a book, like a novel.
I'd imagine that comes from the years of being alone in such a big house. I know Alfred is there, however, it's not the same in a way. So it's really interesting to see that in his character as well.
You make a good point about Alfred, because I think it comes through in the movie that Bruce is not really integrating Alfred into the process very well.
Yeah.
They are very much at odds at this point. At least that's what it seems like to me.
No, I agree.
A little rebellious in a way. How is your take on Batman? What does that look like for you?
So I draw a lot of inspiration from Kevin Conroy.
Yeah.
Definitely. I mean, probably the most quintessential Batman ever put to screen between, the games and the animated series and everything he's been in. Specifically in the vocal area, I try to emulate that, although it is next to impossible, I would say.
Yeah.
Always comparing myself to that is a little bit difficult because it's such big boots to fill. And not everyone can really go that low. Not even myself all the time. That's one of the challenges with it, is that's on like the very bottom of my vocal register, sort of hitting the voice that I want to hit.
Yeah.
And some days it's just not there the same as it is other days. So there are some days I'll come to like a table read and I'll be like, I'm crushing it. I got it today. If I could record, if my voice sounded like this every day I recorded, that would be fantastic. And then, the next table read, I'll be like, wow, I'm washed. Like, I just cannot get low enough. I sound dorky. I probably sound like a 22-year-old kid instead of, the gruff, stone-faced, wide-jawed Batman. But
I will say, you say that, but I honestly, genuinely feel like you have never given a bad Batman performance.
I'm really glad to hear that.
But I feel like you've never given a bad Batman performance.
That is quite a relief for me to hear, and I hope that anyone else who listens can concur, whether it's just a table read or eventually the recordings. My worst nightmares, we go to a recording and the voice, at least to me, just isn't there.
I think, outside perspective versus your internal, bar for what you want can be a lot different sometimes. I know I'm really hard on myself, especially when singing. So it's just something that you've got to take a step back from sometimes and reset your brain. At least that's my experience.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. That is how it goes. We are, in a lot of ways, our own worst critics, so it's good to have outside perspective on that. And it's also good to have constructive criticism, because while we are our own worst critics, there are also times where we're simply not able to see flaws, and we sort of need other people to, come in and help us with that, which is why I'm always looking for guidance. As far as being a voice actor goes, or an actor in general, I always favor more direction. Like, I don't want you to sit in silence thinking about how I could have done something better. I want you to tell me exactly how you want me to do it better, and I won't be offended, because I just want to get better and do the best that I can.
Well, I mean, look at sorry for interrupting, but we just was it yesterday or the day before? We did a table read of the first episode of Rogues, which is a show that we have just started working on. It's an anthology series about Batman's Rogues Gallery. And
Yeah.
we needed somebody to play the Riddler, and TJ was interested in trying. And we ended up finding a voice that I actually really liked.
Mm.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, absolutely.
Is this a bit of an inside scoop? Do you think that TJ might be the voice you're looking for the Riddler, or do you think you're going to keep looking?
I'm going to choose for legal purposes.
But
I'm gonna choose for legal purposes not to answer that question. All I will say.
Not to reveal just yet.
All I will say is that perhaps Arkham Riddler will have a run for his money.
Ooh, that's a pretty good scoop.
Mm.
So we've talked a bit about your role as Batman and some of the other roles you might be jumping in on. But how did you start editing with SleepyCat?
So that was, to clarify,
Yes.
I am an editor in the editorial sense, not an editor in the videography sense.
Yes.
Because we do have that as a listed role, editor. That means like video and audio editor.
Yeah.
I'm technically like in the server grouped under a writer, but I would say my role is being an editor, at least for now, because it got started with a series with a working title of Batman Detective, or I think it's now Batman and Robin Rebirth. So that was a draft script that Logan had made that was presented to us, and I looked over it and we did a table read. And I was interested, since this was very early, I just sort of volunteered. I was like, hey, do you think I could, give this a once over for the action lines and the dialogue? Because I have a lot of experience specifically writing for myself in narration.
Yeah.
And, I have been like an avid book reader in my past.
Mhm.
And so my grasp of sentence structure and inflection and which words you specifically want to say in order to get a very specific meaning across, I feel like I'm very strong in those areas. So I like to touch up dialogue. I've done it on multiple projects at this point. But I like to touch it up when I can, and especially if it's a project I'm going to be involved in.
Yeah.
Every voice actor wants to feel like they can be taken seriously in their roles. And so that extends to, if I'm going to be reading something, I want it to sound really good, and I want it to feel good to deliver. So that's kind of how it started, but also I just kind of wanted to help out on projects around here. Like I said, this was, I think, Logan's first draft of the episode. So absolutely no harm in like editorializing, absolutely no shade to like the initial draft. Everything starts out rough.
Yeah.
Right.
But so I gave the whole episode a once over.
I need help.
Dialogue and
so they're not
even the action lines as well to make their meaning more clear, because this, I believe, is going to be adapted into a visual medium. It's not going to be an audio project.
Yeah.
So I needed to make sure that certain scenes were evocative. I had some original ideas that I floated as well. Fleshed out the investigation scenes with Batman quite a bit with permission, because those took some significant changes. And that's kind of how it started. And I was like, I kind of quite enjoy this. So far, I haven't generated anything original, although I do have like I did make a pitch for a sort of Star Wars audio drama type project.
That sounds cool.
Yeah, I don't know if it's no concrete plans to move forward on it now, but it's sort of out in the ether and something I might do.
Do you want to talk about just a little bit about editing for a friend's play, which I think is wild? Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Well, that's a pretty small project, all things considered.
Yeah.
The way that that one particularly played out is it was a 24-hour theater jam, basically. All the writers get a bunch of people submit to be in this short, kind of thing. And at 8 p.m., like 8 p.m. the night before the performance, all the writers get together and they get certain prompts and a number of actors that they need to write a short script around. And then for the next 12 hours, they write within those constraints to make a short script to bring to the stage. At 8 a.m. the following day, the scripts are submitted with all of the directors and actors gathered together. And then the actors need to memorize the script and be ready to put the show on 12 hours from then. So it's just straight memorization. So they're short.
Wow.
But I had a friend of mine who wrote one of those, and you sell tickets to watch all of the shows.
Go over here.
Sequentially.
Stand. Yeah. No, you can.
One of my friends wrote that, here. And I editorialized.
You guys are going to be on the
for
podcast
that as well
to show what I'm dealing with.
Especially when you're writing with a crunch like that,
you were part of it.
It helps to have someone, because I know from experience, if you're just writing for a long time, your brain kind of goes numb.
What if I told you leave people's stuff alone? Put it down.
And some people are more the ideas.
Put it down.
They're like the ideas guys rather than the prose guys. I feel like this friend of mine was like that, and in a way, Logan is like that. Is when they make a first draft, they want to get the idea of the plot out of the way. And the great thing is that people like that welcome sort of editorializing of the dialogue.
Right.
Because it's like, hey, I'm always worried about people feeling like, this writing is my baby. It's like, I wrote it this way for a reason. If you're trying to change it, especially like so vastly, you're besmirching my skill and my vision. But meanwhile, some people are like, oh yeah,
Aaron,
thank
can you come and stand over here?
Just a different approach, right?
Yeah. So yeah, for the stage, that's that theater jam is something I wanted to partake in as an actor, but sadly couldn't myself just because I had a scheduling conflict.
Yeah. Well, I'm still glad you were able to participate in your own way. I think that sounds like such an interesting opportunity.
Yeah, it really is. It lets people, you usually get a lot more people involved with that sort of thing, especially because it's a low time commitment. So you get, and there's not any great expectation of professionalism. It's kind of like, an entertaining train wreck a lot of the time, because you can't expect people to come up with, fantastic, like dramatic scripts and people to be down pat with the memorization after only having 12 hours with the material. But the great thing about it is it lets people who don't normally write dip their toes into writing, people who don't normally direct dip their toes into directing, and you usually get a lot more people acting than often audition for, the big shows themselves.
Yeah, it seems also like a larger cast than what might be allowed in a regular performance, depending on what numbers are picked, of course. But.
What did you say?
Yeah, I mean, basically, because pretty much everyone who signs up as an actor gets to be an actor, and you're putting on multiple shows, it typically does involve a lot more people across the multiple shows than a single cast would.
Yeah, go ahead.
On that same stage.
Yeah, that's such a unique experience.
Yes.
So you talked about being an actor.
The next
on stage specifically. Do you want to talk about your previous roles?
Even though we will both have money, I will buy you a drink.
What were those shows? And specifically, what show did you play Dracula in? Was it just Dracula?
Right. So, I think a year and a half ago or so. Yeah, I think a year and a half ago, I moved to where I am now, which is technically my hometown. It's a fairly modest Midwestern town, and I immediately pretty much wanted to get into the stage acting scene. I did one play in high school, Cyrano de Bergerac. I got to fence, in a high school play, do like stage fencing.
That's sick.
And have a dramatic battle with the main character, Cyrano. And that kind of gave me a taste for it, but that was my sophomore year of high school, I think. Junior or sophomore year, I don't remember, and COVID hit right after that. I had gotten I had auditioned for a musical, gotten a really good role, and that's when COVID hit. So like I'd gotten the taste for it, and then everything was shut down.
Mm-hmm.
And so those ambitions didn't really resurface until I moved back here. And I had my friend, same friend who wrote that script that I edited, who asked if I was interested in like a really soon upcoming auditions for a show called Dracula, a comedy of terrors.
Ooh.
And I was interested. And this show, it's pretty dang funny if you ask me. It is it's like the Dracula story, and the way they tell it, it's like the way they describe it, it's like Mel Brooks meets Monty Python
Ooh.
kind of comedy.
That is my language. That's incredible.
It is really so far from serious, extremely absurd, and it was really nerve-wracking. But because I've had interest in voice, oh yes, you have something to say, Logan?
I was just gonna say, Raph, do me a favor and put that picture that I edited of PJ that I'm gonna send you, of him in the Dracula fit, but I edited over it with Batman. I need you to put that while he's talking about this show.
That sounds incredible. I'm excited to see that.
But oh, sorry, where were we? Oh yes, it was nerve-wracking auditioning for this thing, especially since it was like, no longer in high school. But I'd say that due to my previous experience, because I'd been doing amateur voice acting work before this, and I've always had an interest in acting, and I've been like refining my voice and my acting chops and my accents, despite the fact that I was extremely green. I was able to land the role of Dracula. I'd say it's mostly because I have a fine stage presence, or I definitely a better one now, but by that point it was just a fine stage presence. But it was better than a lot of the other people, and more than anything, I had the best possible, like the best Dracula voice of all the people who auditioned. I really think that was it. So I got the title role, basically the leading role, not quite. There's the normal guy, Jonathan Harker, who the story actually revolves around, who gets more stage time.
Yes.
So I won't claim to be like the leading man on that show, but it was very big, and I was very green, but it was a ton of fun. It was an intentionally small cast because we had people doubling for comedic effect in a way that even got like fourth wall broken, and the attention was called to it in the finale. I remember my friend who got in it with me had a scene where he fell out of a window as one character, screamed, all the way down as he was falling, quote unquote, while he got his costume changed, and then popped back out at the back of the stage, transitioning from like, what's going on here?
That sounds like a blast to witness.
It was an absolute riot and a ton of fun. And, that costume, they had me in like a sleeveless vest with fishnets. I was basically like bare chested and bare armed. Yeah. Aside from the times when I got to wear the cloak, it was very daunting. And in many ways, I feel like I wasn't the right person for it, per se. I'm not, especially physically, I feel like I'm not great at playing larger than life, charismatic people. But it was, I feel like I did my best with what I had at the time.
Yeah, I mean, just from how you described it, and also your roles that we've seen that we talked about a little, Jay Gatsby, Dracula, and Batman, they seem very similar in that larger than life liveliness. And to hear that that's not something you really resonate with, at least stage presence wise, is kind of surprising.
Well, I mean,
yeah,
not that acting has ever been super difficult for me, or that it's hard to like pretend to be someone I'm not, but I consider myself to be more humble. I know like calling yourself humble is like the absolute opposite of humility.
A little ironic.
yeah, I consider myself more humble and low key and down to earth. I feel like I can have that like larger than life charismatic voice, and I can emulate that personality, but the looks and the physicality I feel like are where I fall short. And that may just be everyone being their own harshest critics, especially when it comes to looks. But that's kind of how I feel.
Yeah.
You know,
I feel like...
Oh, sorry, I was just gonna say they got me in this sleeveless vest, and you can see my tan lines clearly because I wear t-shirts, not tank tops.
I definitely get that. I feel like,
you know,
it might
pale
not
on the chest.
What? What'd you say?
You know, pale on the exposed chest, but I guess that kind of fits.
I was gonna say that's canonical. I work outside, so you can definitely see my tan lines from like a mile away. But you know, it's probably not a bad thing that you're not assuming these roles align truly. You know, it is acting. But it sounds to me like you're being a little harsh on yourself. And that's okay. I mean, we can always continue to work on it and reach greater heights and all that.
Yeah, it's possible. Like, obviously, the directors and assistant directors they pick, like, they see it enough in me, but it's like, I always wonder if I don't see it in myself, if that comes through. And the audience, you know, even though it's like a smaller place, they may not understand, like, you know, they're working with the best they got.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm not the best Dracula, Jay Gatsby, or Batman for that matter that could exist, but I'm the best that they all were able to get. And so, especially when you're in that role where it's like you're supposed to be the most handsome, the most charismatic person in the room, and you know, you feel like, oh, my co-star looks better than me, but they couldn't act the role. Yeah. So now I'm like, I feel like there's this disconnect going on, possibly visually, but I honestly, that's only a concern that I voice after the process. I never let that show during it, and it really doesn't affect me all that much. Now, I know you're also asking about Jay Gatsby, yeah?
Yes.
So that's a role that I played actually a year exactly after Dracula. That was my most recent stage role, because they do two shows a year, this local community theater organization I'm with.
Yeah.
The intervening one, I was also in that because I've basically been involved as much as I can since I did Dracula.
Yeah.
That was Murder on the Orient Express. I only had a small one in that. Part of that could be down to my talent. It's also that the cast for Murder on the Orient Express is generally older people.
Yeah.
You've rarely got a soul under 30 in that cast. So they had me as like basically the closest thing that show had to a background character. Every character other than me was like central. I was just like you know, the jerk face French waiter, pompous, arrogant, like at the beginning that talks to the like Poirot the detective.
Yeah.
And additional voices. So that was a bit of a dud for me.
Still on cast. You're still on the stage.
Yes, and I will say it's a very valuable experience because anytime anyone was gone during the rehearsals, they let me stand in.
Nice.
Doesn't matter who it was, doesn't matter if it was, you know, a male or a female role. And that got me lots of acting experience and very diverse, like, on-stage acting experience.
Yeah.
So next role after that, Jay Gatsby, because like I said, they only had 2 a year. They put on The Great Gatsby. I went and shaved my face. I got myself a 1920s kind of haircut and hairstyle, put on my best clothes, and I went into that audition because I didn't want to miss out this time. And I didn't expect it, but they gave me the role of Gatsby, which felt very similar, a little less intense than Dracula as far as the, you know, playing up my, you know, handsomeness and charm aspect. It was a lot more approachable in that way, and it felt, you know, it had drama, it had a fight between me and another character, which are always fun to do in my opinion.
Yeah.
It felt extremely gratifying, to be honest. It
I
felt
get
like
that.
I feel like I kind of stumbled ass backwards into Dracula, and I feel more like I earned Jay Gatsby.
Well, that's always gratifying, I think, to have that kind of payoff, especially throughout multiple shows in the sense of like your career. Just to see yourself evolve in that way is really important and really cool to see.
Yeah, it's been, I don't want to say it's been like an ego boost or an ego trip to be like, of the shows I've been in or of the things I've been in, I've got like Batman, Dracula, Jay Gatsby. It's been surprising to know that I'm like leading man material.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to do the best for that I can.
Well, I think what makes your like presence as Batman so special, right? Because you're talking about Jay Gatsby and Dracula, is while Bruce Wayne is very outgoing and kind of, I mean, it's a front. And I think what really spoke to me is over everything. You do a great Bruce Wayne, but you really do a great just Bruce, who is down to earth and struggling with problems. And I feel like with every time you play Batman, primary example, with Gotham City Sirens and the scene that you have with Selina when you guys go to Crime Alley, I feel like you were able to, with very like simple dialogue, personify a character who is so tortured and sad and stuck in the past.
I'm honestly glad to hear you say that. It's I always want to do the best I can when it comes to acting, and that includes emulating the emotions of the character as best I can, trying to feel it in the moment so that it actually comes through instead of feeling like acting.
Just feeling like you're a person in a way.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the character is a person. You are a person.
Yeah, allegedly. Yeah, it's easier to act it if part of you isn't actually acting.
Yeah.
The same way that for Gatsby, there were a couple scenes where I, like, backstage before I went on, I tried to like make myself sad. And it really boosted the performance as soon as I started doing that at auditions. My assistant director was like, I love that. And I was like, great. I'm one of those people who doing that sort of thing doesn't affect me because I can just snap right in and out of it. Yeah. Like any emotion, it doesn't get to me much. Meanwhile, I've had co-stars, a good example is in Gatsby, the guy I had to have a fight with. He's someone who he had to play a really dickhead character, which was difficult for him because it's sort of, to get there, it sort of takes him to a dark place and one he's kind of uncomfortable with. And he like really feels it and he can't like transition in and out easily. He'll get there, like he'll make himself feel it, but it'll kind of put him in a bit of a bad mood. Not in like a bad way where it affects everyone, but like you just kind of feel bad for him for having to put him through that.
The tonal shift.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, some people can hop right in and out of that. Some people can't.
Yeah, I think being able to use your emotions in that way as tools in a manner is really effective and is such a great benefit on the stage and in performances. I know, what was it? There was, you were talking about, bringing those emotions to life through your own feelings. I think, writers are told a lot of the time, write what you know. So I think that's definitely transferable to acting in a way.
Yeah, most definitely. I'd say having writing experience also helps me in the acting department, because I feel like I understand what an inflection of a line is supposed to be, even if it's not indicated, which is helpful in shows like The Great Gatsby, which we did, which had almost zero action lines and like tone indications or anything like that. It had remarkably little in the way of actual stage direction. And so I'm someone who I can read a line and I feel like, oh, based on the specific words and the context, I feel like this delivery would be strongest and it aligns with the meaning of the words.
Yeah, and where to take it from there if the performance continues in that way, or how it shifts.
Yeah. It's been, like I said, it's only been about a year and a half since I started doing stage stuff again. I want to be in more. They actually have a musical going on right now, Fiddler on the Roof.
Oh.
The first musical they've done since I've been back. I was excited for it. They usually do musicals at this time. Murder on the Orient Express was in a time slot that's usually 4 musicals.
Yeah.
But I have a pretty sadly conflict for 2 of the show dates. So sadly
it doesn't really align in that way.
Yeah. Although I did miss out on that, there is another little, not through the same organization, but for a local museum, I did a shorter dinner theater comedy thing that was actually written by a local thespian director, more specifically, quite a while ago. It was a Wizard of Oz comedy where Oz has retired from being the wizard and is now a private investigator, and he needs to help. He needs to help Dorothy find the missing ruby slippers because they were stolen quite some time ago, the real ones.
Right.
And I got to work with some of my favorite people from community theater, and it was a ton of fun. And I got to exercise a new kind of chops where it was still leading man kind of thing, but I could do a really melodramatic detective noir kind of voice and vibe, which I think is a ton of fun.
That is so interesting. I know dinner theater is such a fun experience, and to have it shaped in that way and then be a part of it, I think that sounds like a blast.
But for how long, quote unquote, I've been doing it, I technically don't have a lot under my belt, but I feel like through the great people I've worked with and the opportunities I've had a great wealth of experience and grown a great deal, not only as a stage actor, but as an actor in general because of my time working on the stage. And I am so excited to be able to be involved in more.
Yeah, that's incredible.
So I guess I have to ask in relation to that, if we were to do like a play, like a little one act that was Batman related, would you play Batman on stage?
Ooh.
I mean, I would be thrilled to have that opportunity. However, the constraints of distance, I feel like, would be a bit of a... I feel like that'd be a bit of a struggle.
Well, I already said I would fly the entire company out to Canada if I needed to, just for a job. So,
if you had the funds, I would be honored. But me, there's a reason. Well, I mean, there's lots of reasons I'm based out of the Midwest and doing stuff from home. But one of the reasons is I don't really have the resources to go anywhere else.
Yeah.
At the moment, which is one of the reasons that the community theater is so integral to me, is because I get to work with one of my passions, and I'm genuinely so lucky because the vast majority of people I've worked with and gotten to be friends with through this are so cool around here.
That's really great to hear about.
I totally recommend community theater for anyone who has one near them and is interested in acting.
Yeah.
But yes, as for doing like a stage Batman, I would love to. That'd be fantastic.
That sounds very interesting, especially as a one act. performance.
My goal is, if I get the funds in time, I want to send all of the actors something that is related to their characters.
Yeah.
So, like, don't be surprised if I text you one day and I'm like, hey, do you have like a P.O. box that I could send a Batman cowl to?
For sure.
So, we've been talking about Batman. You talked about Kevin Conroy. I know how you feel about the Arkham games. But if you'd like to tell the people how you feel about the Arkham games, I do have, or just gaming in general,
So, my thoughts on the Arkham games are Arkham Asylum, obviously very good baseline. Arkham City, best one by far.
Ooh.
Well, maybe not by far. It's definitely the best one though. And Arkham Knight was fun from a gameplay perspective, but it was a steep decline. I think the reason Logan's bringing this up. Yeah, the reason Logan's bringing this up is because we had a pretty intense conversation, not like a debate or anything. We were both on the same side of this, but like talking about our issues with Arkham Knight. First of all, the car, and driving around in it is fine, but to the extent that the missions or like that gameplay required use of the car, whether it's the tank or puzzle segments, it got old really quick. Aside from driving, those gimmicks might have been entertaining for a few minutes of content. I don't know if content's the right word, but
entertainment.
If they had that as a gimmick in the game for a few minutes, you could have like a fast scene where it's like, oh my god, I can't believe they programmed me to be able to shoot things with the Batmobile, and have your fun, and that's it, because it does not extend well across the whole game. And then plot wise, Jason Todd, the Red Hood, and the way he's done, the way he's whiny and self-pitying, and his beef with Batman, unlike the original stories, is about how Batman failed to save him. In the original Red Hood story, the reason he's angry is because Batman let Joker live, not just because because Batman failed to save Jason. Jason doesn't blame him for that at all, and he shouldn't, because there's not much that anyone could have expected him to do.
Yeah.
So the Jason in this game is mad for the wrong reasons, and it makes it hard to empathize with him. He's basically become a terrorist across like the entirety of Gotham for a short period because of this personal vendetta, like all the mayhem and problems that he's caused because of his issues with one man, and then just his attitude being really whiny. And for me, this also extends to his voice, to be honest. I mentioned specifically that whenever you have to pitch shift someone's voice with like a voice modulator kind of thing, it can work out really well. But if you have to pitch shift someone's voice, especially if you can tell that it's shifted by a lot, it really just makes it feel like, oh, you want me to be intimidated by this person, but I can tell that I'm not.
Yeah.
And, with the delivery, it's very like whiny and smarmy. It's like, I don't take this person seriously. I can tell, like, even before the reveal, it's like I can tell this is just like a brat under a mask.
Well, I also think it doesn't help, right? Like, you and I, touching a little bit away from Batman and DC before we get back on the topic of gaming. You, TJ, you and I are big Star Wars fans. So when you have a voice under a helmet and you're like, oh my god, it doesn't matter that James Earl Jones has a little bit of a change on his voice, he still sounded like Darth Vader.
Yeah, you can tell. The vast majority of that depth in Darth Vader's voice is just James Earl Jones talking.
Yeah.
Most of the effect is that is like the sound to make it sound like it's coming through a mask. It's not a pitch shifting.
Exactly.
And that's something a lot of people get wrong, because you can instantly tell when someone has like a Darth Vader voice changer, or someone's doing like an impression and it's edited, and you can immediately tell when it's pitch shifted too far and it just doesn't sound as good. Granted, that's because James Earl Jones, he has an amazing voice that is so hard to reach. But that's why I say you should only let people who can do that actually play the role.
Do the job. Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah. So,
but
yeah, sorry if that was a little. Oh, go on.
No, it's okay. But yeah, talking about gaming too, we've had conversations about other games, and Battlefield is one that you're a giant fan of.
Yeah, I don't know if it came through clearly enough during that last little spiel, but I'm a pretty big nerd when it comes to gaming. I'm an avid gamer.
You're passionate.
You know, I play a lot of like multiplayer shooters and also narrative focused games, and Battlefield is definitely probably the biggest game series that I nerd out about. The last 4 entries, you know, Battlefield 1, 5, 2042, and 6 are all subjects that I've dove really deeply into. For one, because I really like Battlefield. I really like Battlefield and its entire like layout and gameplay ethos for a multiplayer game in general. It's one of my favorite structures for a multiplayer game. Like if you're going to be fighting other people, I want it to be low stakes, really big maps so that you can use your brain to flank and navigate. And also like I think the way the guns are coded and their mechanics work really well. I might consider the Battlefield series my favorite. Although, to be honest, one of the reasons I continue to play it so much is because it's kind of my job. I'd say I have more respect for narrative-focused single-player games because I've always been big on story in anything that I consume and am involved in. I'm a little bit of a film snob because I want films to be good if I watch them. If I'm going to play a single-player game, I want it to have a good story. Like even if the gameplay is great, I also want a good story. And I enjoy games that are gameplay minimal and entirely story focused.
I get that. What are your favorite titles that kind of fit that storytelling?
It always takes me a second to think about this because some of my favorites are, from so long ago. And it always feels like, oh, wow. As soon as someone asks, I always forget everything I ever loved. So let's see. I know for single player games, I really like the Metal Gear series. That series has been a part of my life for quite a while now. I wasn't in on it in the earlier days when the games were still coming out, because frankly, they're not even coming out anymore. They had that remaster of 3, but
that's about it.
I started with Metal Gear Solid 5 and worked my way backwards from there, which some people might say is sacrilege, but hey, that's the one that was on PC, okay?
That's what was available.
But I was engaged enough by it and respected it enough that I wanted to go back to those older games, even though I would say that the gameplay feel is vastly inferior and clunkier. The story, like the narratives of those games, as convoluted and, literally anime at times as they are, I really deeply love. And then as far as games that don't have a lot of gameplay focus, Soma, by far my favorite horror game of all time. It's got a great atmosphere, and it deals with questions of humanity and artificial intelligence, what it means to be human, and these psychological, rather disturbing questions that you're forced to ask about yourself because you're asking them about the player character.
Yeah.
Dishonored, that's Dishonored 1 and 2. Those are some of my favorite immersive sims to ever exist. They've got story and you can impact, the ultimate ending.
Ooh.
Your choices don't matter too much in the gameplay. Well, you always go through the same missions anyway, they can impact what happens in the missions later on, and they do impact the ending. So there is sort of like the story element there, but mostly as an immersive sim, I find it really great the way you have multiple ways to solve problems. I always love when single player games, I love stealth games, and I always love when single player games give you the option of, okay, you can kill everybody, and that's what most people do, but also you could play the whole game without killing a single person. Like you could avoid, and especially if there are mechanics to knock people out. If you have a stealth game where I can get through the whole thing without being detected and by knocking people out instead of killing them, I'm probably going to automatically love that game. You know,
Absolutely.
that's a lot of the Metal Gear games. That's Dishonored. That's even like Cyberpunk 2077 in large part. Games like Deus Ex.
I think he might be Batman.
Oh, that's kind of crazy. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah,
Detective work. Wonderful. So it's really lovely to hear about. I think we're gonna transition real quick into the trivia segment, if y'all are a-okay with that.
I'm ready.
Let's do it. So I've got a few questions for you. Logan might have a few questions about SleepyCat specific, but these are mostly perfect. These my questions are mostly about some of what we've talked about today.
Okay.
So first and foremost, you talked about Battlefield. What was the first Battlefield title, and what year was it released?
Oh, I know the first Battlefield was, I believe, Battlefield 1942. That was released a good long time ago now. Shoot. I'm really not up on the older games, honestly. Anything before Battlefield 1, I'm very, I have not dove much into, but I'm going to say it was early 2000s. 2002? That would be my guess.
Yeah, exactly. Good job.
Oh, nice.
Right on the head for both of them. You killed it.
Awesome. That was, honestly, I mostly got that just because of my understanding of the timeline of video game graphics.
Yeah.
And I could picture Battlefield 1942 in my head, and I was like, those are like 2002 graphics.
That's really impressive, to be honest.
Awesome.
What you got, Logan?
So it's been a really big week, but this week we've made a pretty big stride in deciding where our direction of the first chapter of our DC universe is going. As a tease to the people who are listening, but also just out of curiosity to you, do you know what our chapter 1 is based on and titled?
Ooh.
Let's see. Are you talking about like our chapter 1 for the whole of like Sleepycat Films?
Yeah, the DC SleepyCat Films universe.
Right, DC specifically.
Yeah.
Is it No Man's Land when Gotham and Bloodhaven are sort of like unannexed from the United States? Or are we, when you say chapter... Okay, I wasn't sure if by chapter 1 you meant earlier than that.
No, as in that.
Yes. Yes, No Man's Land.
That is two for two.
Awesome.
Lovely. Little bit of an easier question for me now. Well, depending. So we talked a little bit about The Great Gatsby. We know that was a musical created from a novel.
Mm-hmm.
Cute little yes or no question for you. Was The Great Gatsby, the novel, a hit immediately?
From what I remember, the answer to that is no. It took some time for it to sort of resonate as the truths revealed by F. Scott Fitzgerald became more apparent. You know, there was a while he was really plugged in to like the party life of the Roaring 20s, and it was largely based, you know, the book was largely based on his experiences. Nick Carraway, the main character, is in large part takes inspiration from himself as an author from the Midwest. So, if I'm remembering right, the book was not really well regarded until quite a while afterwards.
That's correct. The Great Gatsby really gained popularity in the Second World War, in which the administration of the time started shipping out these books to soldiers on the front line. So, good job.
Awesome. That detail I did not know.
Yeah. It's really interesting, huh?
Yeah.
You got another one, Logan?
I do. This one might
What do you got?
stump you a little bit, TJ.
Ooh.
Okay.
So, SleepyCat Films has been doing this whole DC thing for going on 3 years. We started
Wow.
in December of 2023 with a few different projects. Well, actually, no, even before that, in August, we had the script for this first show, for the pilot of it written. Do you know the name of that show?
For the pilot? Oh, hold on. How far back again?
We're talking, it was before you joined the company.
Oh.
But it was the first ever, supposed to be the first ever SleepyCat Films DC project.
I'm going to say Titans Family Matters.
That is actually the second.
Oh,
Darn.
close.
Really, really close. I would say give him half a point. Because technically that is the project that was like the first big one that actually did get finished being like written and everything and stuff like that. But there was a project that we did start working on that ended due to creative differences.
Ah.
And that was Arkham Year One.
Ah, yeah. That's deep lore that I'm not as familiar with.
Speaking of Batman lore,
Excellent segue.
Thank you. I try. So, Batman doesn't have a lot of team ups in terms of comic runs. He's definitely been in less teams than some of his superhero counterparts. One of his groups is called the Outsiders. Can you name 4 members of this group from any iteration?
I'm afraid I could probably name 0 members of that group besides Batman. I have to admit, I'm not a very good comic nerd. I'm not as up on the actual material as a lot of people here are.
Mm-hmm. I understand.
I have not looked at your questions. Let me see if I can guess.
Okay, you want to give a swing at it?
Solo round. All right, let's see. Okay, so we have Batman.
Yep, that's one.
Katana.
That is one. Yep.
Oh, I know this. I read an issue of this from like the 70s. Oh no. Was I know this. Oh man.
Someone that Batman is commonly seen with.
It's one that Batman is commonly seen with?
There's a few on there, yeah.
Was Green Arrow on that team?
No.
Was
Good
Black Canary on that team?
Nope.
Yeah, I think I only got 2.
That's something. You know what? So what I have here is Batman, Black Lightning, Metamorpho, Geoforce,
oh my god,
Katana, Halo, Looker, Nightwing, Arsenal, Catwoman, and Thunder.
Yeah.
So I was trying to hit towards Nightwing and Catwoman.
No,
Dang.
I gathered. I didn't know if, like, because typically they don't involve the Bat family, multiple different Bat family members in the same story, unless it's like a Batman specific story or a Justice League crossover.
Nightwing is in a later iteration, so not in the original for sure.
No, but I vaguely remember seeing Metamorpho after you said it. Oh my god, bro.
Close. I feel like that's a quarter of a point. He said Batman.
I think I only recognized 4 of those names total, let alone would have known that they were in the team.
Which names did you recognize?
Really, it was only Batman, Catwoman, Nightwing, and Metamorpho. I said, I'm not up on my comic stuff.
That's so interesting.
Well, I will say, if you don't know who Katana is and you haven't taken in her comics are really good. But if you haven't heard of her, it's because her only notable live-action appearance was in Suicide Squad 2016, which...
Unfortunate.
Yes.
Oh, that was that character? You see, I never bothered.
I
never bothered internalizing anything.
Fair. Unfortunate and fair. Well, she is in some, like, animated stuff, it looks like.
She's been in a lot of animated stuff. I actually remember her being a core character in Beware the Batman, which is really the Batman show that everybody forgets about, that got canceled after like 13 episodes.
Yeah.
So
was it looks like the animation style is more 3D than anything?
Beware the Batman?
It just... Yeah.
Yes, it's very similar to... Animation-wise, it's very similar to Green Lantern, the animated series, and I'm trying to think of a good example that's not a DC project that uses that type of animation.
I don't remember the name of that Transformers show.
Yes. Oh yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh
yeah. Oh my god, what is it called? Was it just Transformers 2007? Something like that. We'll figure it out in post, and we'll have a picture of it on screen. But yeah,
there you go. That works. Was the 2012 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3D animated?
It was, but it was. I'd argue that it wasn't the same kind of style. I think I think TJ definitely nailed it on the head. That Transformers show was in the same style.
Absolutely.
That was a bit of a deep pull for me. I only know about that show because it was on Netflix at a time when I was young and bored and had a lot of time to watch shows.
Yep, absolutely.
I've never seen anyone discuss a single thing about that show, I think, in my life.
Yeah, I feel like you've got to be like in the trenches of Transformers to really know about that show.
Anyhow, any more questions for me?
Logan, you got anything else? I think that's it for me.
I have just one more.
Ooh. What you got?
And I hate to break it to you, it's probably going to also be a point on my end that you don't get. So, I'm sorry, I chose a very hard set of questions.
It's okay.
So, Grayson is our first DC project that we are releasing next year. Or at the end of this year, going into next year. Our current version of it is following Dick Grayson as he solves the case of the Bloodhaven Ripper. But before this version of the script, there was another version of the script. One that was about Dick Grayson growing up. Do you know who the what the idea of that show was? Like what story it kind of followed?
Ooh, not really. It's about Dick Grayson growing up. You said. I mean,
that's 6 point. No, I'll give him a point. That was a really hard one.
no. I'm trying to think what. I was just trying to clarify. Like, what time frame would that include? I'm guessing it'd have to be post him being adopted by Bruce, right?
So, again, like I said, it was a very hard question. The show is actually told through a few different. It's broken down into arcs. The first arc is centered around him becoming Robin.
Mm-hmm.
The second arc is centered around his relationship with the Titans, and the third arc is centered around him having a falling out with Bruce. The Judas contract story happening, and him coming back and ending the show, becoming Nightwing.
Wow.
Very different lens than our current landscape of the show.
Absolutely.
So that was a hard question. I'll give you just Dick Grayson growing up. That give him a point.
Oh, I'm not too concerned with the score. I was quite clueless on that one.
Wonderful. I think that's everything we have today. You have anything else for us, Logan?
I don't. It's been a really great blast of an episode. And it was really exciting to have you on the podcast, TJ. I hope maybe we can have, well, not maybe. I'm excited for when you, Rick, and Alice come on to do that Trinity episode.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Yeah. I agree. It's been a very fun episode to film.
Well, my name is Logan Murray. You can follow me at Logan K. Murray on all platforms. You can follow the Sleepycat Films on all platforms at the Sleepycat Films.
My name has been Bri Wimberly. You can follow me on TikTok at Son Ablaze Cosplay, or you can email me at sonablaze.cosplay@gmail. TJ, thank you again. Do you have anything you'd like to shout out or direct people towards?
I'd just like to say, keep an eye out for upcoming Sleepycat Films projects, including Grayson, and support your local community theater.
Well, everyone,
Wonderful.
Thanks for watching today's video, and we will see you next week. The Sleepycat Films Official Podcast is an L7 Media audio production made in association with Sleepycat Films and Splatsbox Studios. The show is hosted by Bri Wimberly and me, Logan Murray. The special guest for this episode was Tayler Emerson. Creative director for the Sleepycat Films Official Podcast is Bri Wimberly. Production coordinator is Kat Jones. Executive producers from Sleepycat Films are Logan Murray, Bri Wimberly, and Harold Scott. Executive producers from Splatsbox Studios are Zipporah Williams and Aaron Shepard. Associate producers from L7 Media are Raphael Badar and Rox Roman. This episode was edited by Raphael Badar. Music by Rob Red and Harold Scott. The Sleepycat Films Official Podcast is sponsored by the Sleepycat Films Patreon page. Go to patreon.com/SleepyCatFilms. Our show is also sponsored by the Sleepycat Films official website. Go to sleepycatfilms.my.canva.site. The Sleepycat Films Official Podcast is released every Monday at 12 p.m. EST on YouTube and Spotify. If you'd like to support us, like, subscribe, and follow us on all platforms at the Sleepycat Films. All links are in the YouTube description and linktree. Link in bio. Thanks, everyone, and I will see you next week.